Okay. Do we generally use contractions in spoken or written English? Do we generally use contractions in spoken or written English? We generally use contractions in spoken English. Good. Do you think it's easier to understand written English or spoken English? Do you think it's easier to understand written English or spoken English? I think it's easier to understand written English. Okay. And what's the contraction of book will? What's the contraction of book will? The contraction of book will is buckle. Yeah. What's the contraction of who will? What's the contraction of who will? The contraction of who will is who'll. Good. What's the contraction of what will? What's the contraction of what will? The contraction of what will is what'll. Good. And what's the contraction of the door will? What's the contraction of the door will? The contraction of the door will is the doral. Good. And do we always use contractions in English? Do we always use contractions in English? No. We don't always. We don't always use contractions in English. When don't we use contractions? When don't we use contractions? We don't use. Try again. We don't use contractions when they are difficult to pronounce. Good. Will that picture be hanging on the wall next lesson? Will that picture be hanging on the wall next lesson?
Yes.
That picture will be hanging on the wall next lesson. Or with a contraction, that picture will be hanging on the wall next lesson. Good. Will the door be the same colour next week as it is this week? Will the door be the same colour next week as it is this week? Yes. The door will be the same colour next week as it is this week. Good. Will Mr. Brown be here next lesson? Will Mr. Brown be here next lesson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown will be here next lesson. Good. How do you spell your name? How do you spell your name? I spell my name M-A-I. Good. M-A-I. Do you prefer to communicate with your friends by phoning or texting? Do you prefer to communicate with your friends by phoning or texting? I prefer to communicate with my friends by phoning. Okay. Do you think it's easier to communicate in written or spoken English? Do you think it's easier to communicate in written or spoken English? I think it's easier to communicate in written or spoken? In written English. Can you communicate very complicated ideas easily in English? Can you communicate very complicated ideas easily in English? No. I can't communicate very complicated ideas easily in English. Good. What's the negative of had? What's the negative of had? The negative of had is hadn't. Good. What are the common ways of asking a question with the verb to have? What are the common ways of asking a question with the verb to have? The common ways of asking a question with the verb to have. The verb to have are. Do you have a pen? Have you got a pen? Yeah. Have you got a pen? Do you have a pen? What are the common ways for the past tense? What are the common ways for the past tense? The common ways for the past tense are. Did you have a pen? And had you got a pen? Not have you. Had you got a pen? Good. And which is the most common way of asking a question with the verb have in the past? Which is the most common way of asking a question with the verb have in the past? The most common way of asking a question with the verb have in the past is did you have a pen? Good. Did you have your book with you last lesson? Did you have your book with you last lesson?
Yes.
I had my book with me last lesson. Good. Had I got any money in my hand last lesson? Had I got any money in my hand last lesson?
No.
You hadn't got any money in your hand last lesson. Good. Did I have my feet on the table last lesson? Did I have my feet on the table last lesson?
No.
You didn't.
You didn't
have your feet on the table last lesson. Good. Did you practice your English after you left school yesterday? Did you practice your English after you left school yesterday?
No.
I didn't practice my English after I left school yesterday. Good. Is it easier to become good at a sport if you get lots of practice? Is it easier to get good at a sport, become good at a sport, if you get lots of practice? Yes. It's easier to become good at a sport. If you get lots of practice. And what's the difference between the noun practice and the verb practice? What's the difference between the noun practice and the verb practice? The difference between the noun practice and the verb practice is that we spell the noun with a C and we spell the verb with an S. Good. And what's a polite way of communicating that you want something? What's a polite way of communicating that you want something? A polite way of communicating that you want something is to say I would like. Good. Give me an example, please. I would like. Try again. I would like. I would like a cup of tea. I would like to watch that TV program. Good. What can we say when we offer something to somebody? When we offer something to somebody, we can say, would you like? Give me an example, please. Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like to go to the cinema? Good. Can we learn a lot by visiting different countries?
Yes.
We can learn a lot. By visiting different countries. Good. And did you visit any new places last month?
No.
I didn't visit any new places. Not news, any new places last month. Good. Would you like to visit Australia in the future? Yes. I would like to visit Australia